Hey Homeworthy, I'm Sarah. Welcome to my home in Boston. I can't wait to show y'all around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Be sure to visit our website, homeworthy.com, to discover amazing furniture, art, accessories, and more, all handpicked by our editors to help transform your house into a home. All of the items are inspired by the episodes you see here on Homeworthy. Enjoy!
Hi, my name is Sarah Winchester. We are in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, at my home, all decorated for Christmas. The history of this house dates back to 1987, I believe, and it's what's called a traditional Foursquare. So you have this center foyer, center landing, and then 4 rooms kind of off on each first and second level. And it really makes for just a beautiful family house where you can be in one room, but then you feel close to other people. And it just has this amazing history. And when my husband and I found this home, gosh, almost 11 years ago now, it needed a lot of love, but he's so great. He said to me, he's like, he had the dream. He's like, you can do this. And he had faith in me for being able to come in and just basically gut the place. I don't think there's a square inch of this home we haven't touched over the past 10 years, 11 years. And unfortunately, we did it in every incremental phase. So we've lived through every renovation and iteration of this house. And it's just a labor of love, and we love it so much. And we feel owning an older home, especially in a city like Boston and Chestnut Hill, you really do get the sense that you are like a steward, a caregiver of this home until the next generation takes it and makes it their own home. I live here with my husband, Steve Curry, and our 2 children, who are 11 and 9, and our 18-year-old cat, Magnolia, who has been with me since I moved up here from Atlanta before I was even married. So she's the OG and also the inspiration for all of this Christmas decor with the magnolia leaves and bringing in that Southern and New England mixed together, because that's our family. I'm from Atlanta, my husband's from Massachusetts. I've got 2 little Boston babies, and we live here. Welcome to my home. This is our foyer. And we love to put our Christmas tree smack dab in the middle of the foyer. So it's the first thing that greets us when we walk in. And you'll see from the other rooms, it's visible from most of the first floor, which we love. As well as being our formal entry in our foyer, we also use it as a makeshift mudroom. I've learned living in New England now that mudrooms are very important, but this old house doesn't have one, so we've just turned this space into one. We use this great old chest filled with hats and gloves and scarves and stuff for the winter. I've added some of my old art school sketches because it kind of inspires me each day when I walk out the door. We also have added some hooks and a mirror, and then this is kind of the mudroom feel of it all. Usually it's filled with kid junk, but I kind of cleaned it up for y'all. And right off our foyer is our living room, which we'll head into next if y'all want to follow me. Here we are in the living room. This is sort of my bright and airy, a little more transitional, adding some modern elements. And I've added a couple of my own photographic pieces. I love being able to use my home as a test kitchen for my own photography before I kind of launch it into the world. And then I love living with it as well. And having fireplaces, working fireplaces in New England is just an absolute luxury. I love coming in here on a Saturday with the paper and a coffee and just snuggling up in here. It's wonderful. A couple of my favorite pieces in this room are some of these photographs here, and it might be tricky to see, but they are platinum palladium photographs of some of my professors from graduate school. And I've kept in touch with them over the years and still do workshops to keep honing our skills. But Pradeep Malde and his wife, Rachel Malde, are some of the most amazing photographers and have really honed the craft of platinum palladium printing. And so we've got a piece by Rachel over here, and then a wonderful painting. And then another platinum photograph over here by Pradeep. And I just love, the thing I love about platinum palladium printing is there is such tiny nuance to it. There's like a million shades of gray. You never truly reach true black, you never truly reach white, but in between you can just find such detail, and it's so exquisite. Some of these trinkets, I am very guilty of going on everything but the house. This is not a pitch for them. When I'm in the bath and just flipping through and finding lovely things. I have a couple search items up that when things pop up, I bid, I see if I get them, and sometimes I win and I get these fun trinkets home. These are things I've got at auctions. I have a couple other things in this room. I'll show y'all as we go around. Here are some things I got through my travels, and I like melding them, getting items when I travel and getting items in the bathtub. Here I have a book, which I often like to flip through coffee table books. I know a lot of people don't even flip through coffee table books, and I do collect a lot of them and haven't read them all, but I like to be able to grab one and just flip through at any time. Here I have some fun little crystals in here. Another thing I like to just collect en masse because they're pretty and they're shiny, and I'm a bit of a magpie. Two items over here, it might be tricky with the light, that I love are these little snuff bottles that I got when I was in Hong Kong when my family went when I was 17 years old. And you can see the detail on them is just so incredible. And they would, have their snuff inside, take it out, but now they're just beautiful items to have in a box. So I'm not a professional interior designer. I am a trained photographer, but I do just love interiors. And I am so fortunate to work with some of the best interior designers that I absorb through them. I see so many amazing homes, so many amazing projects. I chat with my clients who are the designers that I feel like I can pull items here and there to make my home feel cohesive and well-designed, but also me. I mean, I could walk around and tell y'all, oh, these sofas, I had an idea. I wanted 2 Chesterfields flanking the fireplace. I asked my friend and client, Cecilia Walker, where should I get them? What color should I do? And I do ask my friends for advice, and they're so kind and so forthcoming, and I think everybody just loves creating beautiful spaces. So as well as asking my designer friends for advice, I do have to keep things like high-low. I love finding that Biedermeier chest at an auction website, and then I've also used these IKEA cabinets that have all of our games and my kids' toys. And so living in a beautiful space, my kids would know, you can go in, bring all the stuff out, we spread out the games, and then we can clean it up and tuck it away, and I can have a lovely grown-up space as well. When we first saw this home, we immediately saw the potential. It was definitely not move-in ready. We definitely needed to make it our own space. But I'm that type of person anyway. I want a project that can become my own. I don't want a house that's perfectly done according to someone else's idea. I like to come in and get my hands dirty. For example, this room we're sitting in was this like peachy orange. It didn't have a connection to the kitchen, so we really worked with it. We didn't move in for about the first 7 months for the major construction. And then we moved in, and then over the years did more and more and more. But Old homes come with a lot of old problems that we had to deal with, like the really not sexy things, but it really makes your house a lot better, like removing knob and tube wiring, redoing ceilings, plumbing, all the guts of the house that's needed, but you don't see it. So next, I'm gonna bring y'all into the dining room, and like a traditional Foursquare, it's just off the living room, just off of the foyer, so everything's really connected. And I'll scoot around here. And actually my son was jumping on the sofa once and flipped over and broke his arm off of this sofa. So there's a little PTSD here, but we will carefully navigate around there and come into the dining room. So welcome to our dining room. This dining room, when I was designing it, when we moved into this house, I was really adamant that it be a functional dining room. We eat dinner here every night. We eat breakfast here on the weekends. I grew up having dinner in the dining room every night, and I just love having that time at the end of crazy days, work, activities, sports, that we can all come together and sit at the table. And we like to play this game we call high, low, ha. So you're sitting around the table and everybody has to go around and give a high, low, and a ha from their day. So it's a really nice way to feel and figure out what the kids have gone through that day. And I also think about what were my high, my low, and my ha's. And some days you have all highs, and some days might have a couple more lows. But in this dining room, I was fortunate enough to get my great-grandmother's buffet from where she grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. My mother had it. I grew up with it in Atlanta. And then my mother gave it to me. It is not anything super fancy special. You know, it's from the 20s. When I was having it restored, I remember asking the furniture restoration guy, I'm like, can you just polish up the brass poles really well, make it nice and shiny? And he's like, honey, they're tin. So not that fancy, but I love it, and it's really special to us. Well, I set the table. In addition to eating at the dinner table every night, we also light candles, turn on music. I guess it's you know, the creative in me. I like to create a dinner. And here with Christmas, because I have these blue chairs all year round, I like to just incorporate red and bring in the blue and have that be the Christmas feel and not fight with the chairs I have majority of the year in making a Christmas scheme. Every Christmas Eve, we host my in-laws, so it's about 12 to 14 of us. We put in the leaves of the table, we scooch in more chairs. I go even more a little bonkers with the centerpiece. And we have a beautiful Christmas Eve dinner all together, open presents from each other, and then go off to bed and wait for Santa. Another favorite thing about this room and this old house are these wood beams, are original to the home. The former owner had them painted brown, not stained. So I promptly painted them white. And I also added another one of my own photographs here. I think it just makes a really fun, modern pop over this really traditional piece in a more traditional home. I really love having that mix. I like having something unexpected. And I love when we're sitting around the table with different friends and family, everybody has a feeling of where they think this was taken and in whatever their travels and their experiences were. And that's the great thing I find about art. It's something I made and I have my own experience, but the minute you put art in the world, other people are going to bring their own life experiences and have their own interaction with that piece of art. And that's kind of what art's all about. I am definitely someone who likes to go all out for the holidays. My husband jokes I'm a combination between Buddy the Elf and Clark Griswold. So I just love to go bananas, and he knows it, and the kids love it. My daughter the other night, we're sitting here watching a movie by the fire, and she said, there's just nothing I love more than sitting here together on the couch and glancing out to the side and seeing the Christmas tree lit up. And I was like, me too, me too. Like, that's exactly how I feel. I just love nestling in the winter and decorating the house and enjoying it. So from the dining room, we will transition into the breakfast area and the kitchen. So come along. I want to stop and point out, just last weekend, my kids made these super fun gingerbread houses they make every year with their Grammy. She comes over with all the supplies, and even as my kids get older, they ask every year, when are we going to make the gingerbread houses with Grammy? So, and they're really good. And then I usually like to try to incorporate them in our centerpiece for Christmas Eve. And they keep getting better. I'm really impressed. This breakfast area used to be just a single door here. We opened it up. This was kind of like, I don't know, half the kitchen, half a breakfast. We added these 3 huge windows, which I just love. It lets in so much light. You know, these days are getting shorter around Christmas time. New England is New England and the sun sets at 4:30. But having all this light coming in during the day just makes it feel so bright and airy and uplifting and wonderful, and probably how, as a Southerner, I am surviving in New England all these years. I chose to do more of a movable bench than a built-in banquette. Because of the windows, I wanted to be able to change my mind and move things and have a big enough table where we could sit and have breakfast, but I didn't want a large enough seating area that we would end up having dinner here. I always wanted that, bring it into the dining room for dinner, having that bigger formal space when it came to dinner time. This is your grab and go breakfast as you head out the door to school and work. And another reason why, as we transition into the kitchen, I chose not to design a bar with counter stools because it felt like, no, this is where the dirty work gets done. Come into the breakfast area, have your breakfast, and then at dinner time, we can come and separate ourselves from the kitchen and have a nice, quiet dinner. I went to school for art and art history. I then went to graduate school at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, where I focused on museum education, but also photography, and always just loved photography growing up. Then I did a pivot after that and went corporate. I thought I was going to go into the museum world. Decided to have about a 10-year stint at a corporation doing their brand management. Started doing some of their commercial photography as well. And then when I moved up here to Boston, instead of looking for an agency or another corporate job, I really wanted to go out on my own and do my own photography. So I started doing just any type of photography out there. Fashion, weddings, families, just really honing my skills technically, because I went to art school. I went more for traditional photography, platinum palladium printing, working in a dark room, much more of that. So my technical muscles weren't as strong. Then after my second child was born, and I started making friends with people in the design community, I really decided that interior photography was my jam, was my passion. I loved getting to go into beautiful homes. I loved getting to work with designers and their creativity and projects that would take sometimes years and years. And then I came in as the photographer, and we worked for 1, 2, 3 days really, really hard and could get them those beautiful final images that then they could go on with their business, have those images. The families that lived there could kind of muck it up their family way. And that's when I really transitioned to focus on interior photography for the past decade or so. Meanwhile, still doing some of my own fine art photography, which I'm been working on building more and more and more. And I'm currently working on building out my own darkroom finally after however many years after grad school, and going to build my own platinum palladium darkroom, which I'm really excited about. And now we will transition into the kitchen. Of course, my kitchen always looks this spotless. Not exactly, but I've pulled out a couple things because we are getting ready to make my great-grandmother's butter cookie recipe. So I've got the mixer out, I've got some of the accoutrements and this fun little cookie press. So we make the dough, you put it in this cookie press, you pick a pattern, and you press out the cookie dough. I remember growing up though, my mother had an electric one, which is so like 80s to have like an electric cookie press, and all I remember is this like it was just this like loud, very loud cookie press. And I feel like these manual ones are a little bit better. But I'm so lucky to have a copy of the recipe from my great-grandmother. Yeah, it was my great-grandmother, in her handwriting. And these are their butter cookie recipe, German-Irish from Ohio. And it literally takes 3 sticks of butter. Actually, I need to get more. That goes into this recipe. It's just butter, eggs. I don't know why I have baking soda out. Butter, eggs, and flour, and a little milk. And it is delightful. And the kids love decorating them and having these cookies every year. When we moved in, this kitchen, moving in from the breakfast area, actually the ceiling was 1.5 feet lower. We didn't even know the ceilings were this high in here. The basement, this was a full wall. The stairway to the basement went down here. This doorway was another stairway, which I'll show y'all later, went all the way up to the 3rd floor, which was probably the original, servant staircase. They'd come down into the kitchen. But over the years, they had turned it into a 3-bedroom apartment with college kids living in it. So we removed the staircase, relocated the basement staircase. There was a corner sink. I mean, it was all totally, I think it'd been redone maybe in the 80s or the 90s. Like, not my taste at all. Probably wonderful for them, but it was really fun to get to. This was completely gutted from like, we could see the basement and every wall was open. And this has been really fun over the years, this gallery wall, just taking some of the kids' art, having fun with it in the kitchen. They get to see themselves up on a wall. I think being an artist myself, I love being able to highlight what they've done and celebrate what they've done and show them that like things they do are wonderful. Having a traditional Foursquare, you see a lot of rooms from each room. So the color palette I decided upon when moving in here was very much a neutral, aside from that black library. And the way I would bring in color is like this gallery wall, having pops of color or the pops of blue in the dining room. So the whole house flows because it is very central oriented, but each room still has its own personality and still has a lot of life and color and fun. Creating a beautiful home with children starts with a mix. And so I have pieces from IKEA mixed with antiques, mixed with, sofas from Jordan's Furniture, but it works and it's covered and the pattern is very forgiving and the color is very forgiving. And you also have to be okay with things breaking, things getting stained, things breaking. I also feel having children around beautiful things and nice things and not freaking out about it, they've grown up kind of knowing how to take care of things, knowing that this is nice and I'll be special around this, or this door I can kind of slam. I think also, as I said, you have to be okay with things breaking. I can show y'all there's a jam to the door frame over there, and I remember my son was maybe 3 or 4, and I hear this like banging, 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 and I come running out making sure everything's okay. He's holding the broom. He is hammering against the door jamb, like chips of paint and wood are coming off, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he looks up at me like so adorable, curls and everything, and he goes, "But it was the dragon." And I'm like, all right, that's an adorable thing to say. I'll just have to get some paint out and repaint it. So, and then take the broom away promptly. I'll show y'all our little first floor powder room now. Powder rooms are always such a fun place to go bold because you don't see them from everywhere and you're not in them for a very long time, but it's where you can have fun. So taking on this black and white neutral theme from the rest of the house, I kind of went bananas with this black and white and gold and gray Japanese wallpaper, fun tile floor, and a little chinoiserie cabinet that my mother gave me. Next, I'm gonna get to take y'all to my favorite room in the house, our library. And originally, this was a wall, these doors weren't here, so we opened this up so you could access the library. And now we have direct access from the library to the kitchen, which is great because I call this our library, but the largest thing in the room is the television. So this is also the TV room. But I love how the black paint actually kind of helps the TV disappear. Doesn't help so much with the PlayStation and the Nintendo, but those are facts of life. When I designed this bookshelf with our builder and our carpenter, I really wanted it to hold all of my coffee table books, all of our other books, but also be the main TV room. And doing these doors, like a double door, when you open them up, they're flush with the bookshelf. And when you close the door, when you're watching a movie, you can sit in here nice and cozy and the doors just become a part of the built-in, which I love. Let me walk y'all around this bookshelf. It has a lot of wonderful, wonderful things up here. On the top here is a whaling scene. I got it in an antique store in Nantucket for my husband. And it's wood, and what it originally was would have been the top to a chest on a ship. And we love New England, we love the coast, and I got that for him for Christmas one year. Another item which has made the hollowed halls of the bookshelf is my husband's college football helmet. He's very proud of it. He should be. Worked very hard, so we allow the football helmet to make the formal library. So again, on my love of Christmas, my love of this room, I just went bananas. A couple years ago, another good friend of mine, Jen Figgy, I called her and I said, let's just give me a design idea for my house. I love Christmas. You're such a talented floral stylist. I'll, pay for all the fixings that you think, but like, give me your vision, your unedited vision. And she came up with this amazing idea to drip greenery from the antler chandelier, and this idea of the greenery speckled in with pheasant feathers. And I loved ordering and getting these magnolia and cedar garland from Weston Farms in North Carolina. I feel it brings in that Southern Christmas and that New England Christmas and just fills the space and goes with the black so beautifully that sitting here and watching a Christmas movie is my favorite thing in the world. These stockings are John Robichaud stockings, and I got them, I think I was pregnant with my first, and kind of always secretly knowing that I wanted 2 children, I purchased 4, knowing that when you find something you love, if you go back a couple of years later, you might not find it. So I purchased 4 and tucked one away, had our first child, and then when I got pregnant with our second, was able to take out the other one and have it embroidered with our names on them. And I love them. A fun thing about these 2 fireplaces, y'all saw the living room earlier, which is sort of the bright white, a little more modern. This is our library, darker, moodier. Originally, these mantles were flip-flopped. And when I wanted to paint this room black, I felt that this lamp was just much more masculine, much more moody. And then you'll see in the living room, there are more like garland and bows and a bit more feminine, if you will, a bit lighter. So we flip-flopped the mantles, popped them off, flipped them, got the marble surround, and now I think they're perfect. It's like they always were here, like they should be here. This desk back here is hand-me-down from my mom, antique. I joke, like, it's either hand-me-down from my parents or then we just got the sofas. So it's really fun to be able to have this. It's not like an actual desk that we use. I'm not penning any letters to Mr. Darcy, but I use it as a way to display some of our collections and things that I've gotten through travels and auctions and that kind of stuff. So I have this beautiful shell box, this Victorian shell box that I got in that same antique store in Nantucket, which is like stunning. And then I love it up against this tramp art box that I found, again, on my favorite place, Everything But the House. I love folk art. I love that. I actually wrote my undergrad thesis on Howard Finster, a folk artist from Georgia. So I love that mix of a self-taught artist with more of a traditional, classically trained art. And then again, my just magpie wanting anything gorgeous and shiny, and crystal or malachite is another favorite thing I love collecting. I'll show you a couple more pieces that I have that in my search item for a couple auction sites are malachite, and when they come up, I try to get them at a good price because I think they're really pretty. And I just love the idea that stones and crystals and things have had such a long life and history. Going on with the theme of this is sort of our traditional New England moody. Again, I've worked with that same antique store in Nantucket. Got this ship painting for my husband again for Christmas. I think it was last year. And then I wanted one of those traditional federal fisheye mirrors. One year I went to Brimfield with like a good budget, wanted to find a great one, walked around for hours, found nothing, popped in this one tent right before I was about to leave. Everything was 50% off, and I found this, and I was like, okay, great, I got it. What's my budget? It was $14. So that was great. And then when my daughter was little, I found this great little children's chair. It's actually really hard to find cute children's furniture. So I found it, found this leopard fabric, covered it with that. She loved it, has since grown out of it, and now it's just sort of a throne for our 18-year-old cat, Magnolia. So it's her little perch. So when designing this room, knowing that a black room would absorb a lot of light, I really wanted a lighter, more muted rug. So I found this great Oshak rug. Believe it or not, it cleans up with a little bit of elbow grease. There has been wine, cat puke, all sorts of stuff have fallen on this rug, and it has been very forgiving, which is great. My personal sense of style, I guess you could say it's transitional. I love the traditional bones of this old home, but I also love popping in something kind of more modern or off. I love to say that when I look at a room and I design a room, I love for my father, who can be very traditional and wonderful, but I would love for him to walk into a room and be like, this is wonderful, this is so lovely, but that's interesting. That's an interesting choice. And then I know I'm taking it, one step further, making it my own and taking a spin on things. When it comes to who's wearing the design pants, my husband certainly has an opinion. There's been some light fixtures I've put up and he's absolutely vetoed. I definitely love having him involved because I want it to feel like his home, but the great thing is he knows I'm a creative. He knows I love doing this. My home is also my canvas, so my whole family is really supportive of letting me just go to town. Sometimes there are mistakes, and sometimes they're great. And I've seen my children take this over too into their rooms and their lives of finding creativity and solace in the space that you create, because there is something just so wonderful and important about home, about where you live, and it affects your mood and it affects how you live, and I very much am affected by my atmosphere and my surroundings. Next, I'd love to take y'all upstairs, see our landing where we have our second Christmas tree. Okay, this is our landing, which is such an amazing, super secret extra space room in this house. And we put this huge 10-foot Christmas tree here, and it's like this space was made for a tree. And this tree we have a little fun with. We throw all the colorful ornaments, all the glittery baubles, another train around the tree, as always needed, which I can run for y'all, and a sleeping magnolia. You have to pay the kitty tax if you pass by. Pay the kitty tax. And recently in this landing, as I was saying earlier, I love using my home as a test kitchen for my own art. And I had traveled to Paris and just taken a ton of photos. And then after coming home and sitting with it, I found these ones that I really loved and blew them up huge. They're like 6 feet by 4 feet. And I think they look amazing in this space. I love how they create almost another window on either side. And I love the large format. and I love being able to use my home to try out things of my own work, and almost like a rotating gallery. These incredible slipper chairs, once again, are from my parents, hand-me-down, which is amazing. I love this fabric. Magnolia loves sitting here in the sun. When the tree's not here, we have a round table that can be another game table, another place for the kids to read, on the window seat. And like I said, it's another room in the house that you're able to have, kind of not even knowing, passing through a hallway and be able to have this space is great. I don't even know what fabric this is, so if anybody out there knows what this fabric is, please tell me, because they're getting faded in the sun and I love it so much and I would love to recover them, but I can't find it and I don't even know what it's called. My theme for decorating the holidays is I love to keep this room a bit more traditional, with the dark walls, the antler chandelier, faux antler chandelier my mother gave me. It feels very kind of like by the fire, get your brandy, and cozy up. The other room, our living room, which is sort of the light version of this, has a bit more of a modern take to it. I love to go slightly more minimalist in the Christmas decoration, although it's not that minimal if you look at me. And the rest of the house, I just kind of love draping the greenery. I love the smell of the pine trees. Our two Christmas trees, the one in the foyer has a bit more of a traditional spin. The reds, the golds, the blacks, and then the larger tree up on the landing, we go more colorful, fuchsia, blue, yellow, all the other kind of colors of the rainbow, and more fun, and a little more funky. Oh, and then we do the kids' tree too. Well, the kids' tree goes up to the third floor, and then that's more woodland creatures, some of the homemade ornaments that are darling and precious, but you don't want them on the front of the tree when people walk in the front door, but you want to hold on to them. The way I went about decorating this home, I knew actually first and foremost that I wanted a black living room. I had an amazing stylish aunt growing up. I still have her. And they lived in Inman Park in Atlanta, and she always had a gorgeous black living room in one of those old historic Atlanta homes, and I just always felt that it was the chicest thing ever. And so when we moved in here, I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna paint this room black. And he had faith in me. He looked at me like I was a little crazy, but now it's just absolutely our favorite room. I can't imagine living in a house without a black room. This paint color is actually Farrow and Ball black blue, so there's like the slightest hint of navy, which is wonderful. So as the sun changes over the day, over the seasons, it could be black, it could be navy, it could feel, all these different iterations, which is what I love so much about it. Again, in a Foursquare, we have this central hallway here just above the foyer, and there are 4 bedrooms on each corner, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one is the primary. We painted this room Farrow and Ball light blue, but like so many Farrow and Ball colors, it's like a million other colors than just what it says. And I love that this is a very muted blue, but some lights it looks green, and I think it just is really soothing and really peaceful for sleeping. And I got to add a couple of our pieces of art that we've collected. These 2 prints right here were also collected when I went to Hong Kong with my family when I was 17 years old. Found these watercolors, have had them since then, and I love that they're in our bedroom now. This incredible 4-poster bed is actually Williams-Sonoma home, and I love it. I love a high bed. I love a 4-poster bed. It's a small room, and you would think that a bed this size wouldn't fit, but I actually feel that sometimes larger pieces of furniture in smaller rooms make the room feel bigger, that it can hold a bed this big. I also still always love a box spring. I find it tricky sometimes when looking for beds and they have the slats and you can't have a box spring with it. I think it just makes it so much more cloud-like and cushiony, so I always like to have a box spring still too. putting a big king bed in an older home, the tricky part is, where do you put this huge bed? Because 100 plus years ago, they didn't have big beds. And I have to have a king bed. So we put it up against this bay window, this traditional kind of front 100-plus-year-old glass, put in a double pane to insulate, and it works perfectly right in front of the windows. When you have old homes, you sometimes have to get creative. You can't follow design rules exactly. And it's kind of one of those situations where you learn the rules to know enough when to break the rules. Chandelier is visual comfort, which they make great, amazing lighting all the time. And it has a great up light. I love a good up lighting instead of kind of a harsh down light. Normally, I'm 100% I put the overhead lighting in, the ceiling lights, and then I never turn them on. This is one light that I don't hate on. All right, old house love. We have our primary bath right off the bedroom. And going back real quick to the paint, when you paint a room, including the casing, all one color, you want to split finish and make sure you paint the interior of the doors that color. But then when you open it up, it's the color of the next room. So this is our primary bath. This was probably the most recent place we gutted in the house. And this needed a full gut. This was pretty horrible to begin with. But being an older home, it's a smaller bathroom. It's still stunning. It's kind of, I call it tiny but mighty. And I wanted the bathroom to have a special piece. So I worked with our millwork company, found an old chest on First Dibs that I wanted to replicate and turn into a vanity, but it's, completely new millwork, plumbing, but I feel like it looks like a piece of furniture. So there's a little jewel. And then in this smaller bathroom, harkening back to my design choices in the rest of the house, it's more neutral, and then there's pops of fun art to bring in color and make things a little more modern. The word home to me means family, and I love creating a home for my family, especially at Christmas when I can pull out all the memories and the things that we have had experiences with. I love that I get to set up a train around every Christmas tree, antique toy trains that were given to us by my father, who's a huge train collector. And to me, no tree would be complete without a train around it. And home just means my family.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.